Session 52 Recap, told by Dar the Sellsword. The last lantern was thick with smoke and laughter the night Fritz returned. The gnome wizard, robes frayed from long travel, stepped through the door, and the whole tavern seemed to hold its breath. A moment later, mugs clattered and voices rose. "Fritz!" cried Marta, near spilling her drink. Even Patch poked his head from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a greasy apron. For a time, the tavern was all handshakes, embraces, and slaps on the back. But the warmth soured when the boy's name was spoken. Ryan, Misty's son, 10 years old, wizard in training, brave as any man grown, turned to stone by basilisks outside Valoriax. The quest board bore his name, to bring back Ryan. Fritz's face hardened. Sanders, the doom cleric, rose to his side. A towering newcomer, Naturu Ograk, the troll farmer turned barbarian, nodded once, shouldering a heavy axe. And me, Dar, the sellsword, was hired on for steel and scars. Into Valoriax. The city loomed like a broken crown in the dark, towers shattered, streets half swallowed by the earth. The wind carried the stench of old fires and rotting flesh. Looters skulked through alleys, paused, dragging sacks of bone and brass, fleeing when they saw Sanders's gleaming hammer. But worse than thieves waited in the ruin. Battle 1, the ghoul in the feast. We found it hunched over a corpse, gnawing ribs with teeth like knives. The thing turned, eyes glowing, gore dripping down its chin. Naturu roared and charged, cleaving into its shoulder. Fritz shouted arcane words, flame leaping from his hands to burn the ghoul's face. Sanders raised his holy symbol, blasting radiant light that seared its skin. The ghoul lunged, claws raking, but we drove it down quick. Its body smoked in the dust, and the victim it fed upon was too far gone to save. Battle 2, the Banshee's Wail. Deeper in, the air grew cold. Among broken statues, a figure drifted, pale, shrieking, her voice a blade of sorrow. The Banshee screamed, and even I dropped my blade, clutching my ears. Naturu stood firm, his rage drowning out the terror. Fritz countered her with arcane force, striking her spectral form with bolts of fire. Sanders called upon Hebriel's light, his prayer hammering against the Banshee's shadow. I gods help me, found my footing, and thrust steel through her fading heart. She shrieked once more, then dissolved into nothing but wind and ashes. Battle 3, the young basilisk. In a courtyard overgrown with vines, stone shapes littered the ground. Men, women, walked, even a hound mid-leap, petrified mid-scream. The young basilisk crept from behind broken walls, scales glistening, eyes glowing. Naturu didn't hesitate. He swung. The beast snapped its jaws on his axe haft, nearly tearing it away. Sanders blinded it with divine light, forcing its head back. Fritz conjured an illusory double, drawing its gaze away while I slipped behind. One good strike under the jaw dropped it. But the statues around us stood as grim reminders. Ryan was somewhere among them. Final battle. Nahara and Thun, the basilisk mates. At the heart of the ruins near a cracked temple, we heard the hiss. Two shadows uncoiled from the rubble. Massive basilisks, larger than horses. A bonded pair. Nahara and Thun, the ground shook when they charged. Nahara struck first, tail whipping, sending me sprawling. Thun circled, eyes burning, trying to force us to meet its gaze. Naturu bellowed in rage, smashing his axe against Thun's scales. Sanders raised his shield, light spilling across the courtyard, holding the line. Fritz unleashed spell after spell, fire and frost slamming into the monsters. The fight was chaos, stone dust, roars, screams. Nahara slammed Sanders to the ground, nearly crushing his ribs. Thun snapped its jaws on Naturu's arm, blood spraying. When Nahara fell, Thun went mad. Its roars shook the ruin, its strikes faster, stronger. I swear it nearly turned Fritz to stone before Fritz ended it with a devastating lightning bolt, the blast cracking its scales and dropping the beast dead where it stood. I looked at him, still catching my breath, and said, "Fritz, you should have led with that." At last, silence. The ruins still. The boy found. We found him at the temple's base, Ryan, frozen mid-gesture, his small hand raised as if casting one last spell. The stone was whole. Thank the gods. Fritz wept as Sanders began the rite. Light poured over the boy, stone cracking, flesh returning. Ryan gasped, alive, alive. He looked at Fritz and whispered, "I held them back. I didn't run." Returned to the last lantern. We brought him home. The tavern erupted when we entered. Cheers, tears, mugs raised high. Marta held the boy like a mother, weeping into his hair. Patch shouted for food, ale, and music. And me? I told the tale, just as you've heard it. Ryan's no halfling, I said. He's no child. He's a wizard of old Arua, brave enough to stand where many would flee. We brought him back, but make no mistake, the lad stood first. We only followed. The night ended with song, with Ryan smiling shyly by the fire, and with Fritz's hand on his shoulder. But the shadows of Valoriac still stir. What we killed there was only the beginning. Dar the sellsword.